I first got into political advertising back in 1978. There was a fellow by the name of John Tower who was U.S. Senator of Texas, and he was running for his third term as U.S. Senator. And he knew he needed the Latino vote in Texas. At that time, only 8% of Latinos would vote for a Republican. I mean, Republicans had no presence, but somehow he sensed that, this time the Latino vote might make a difference. And this was back in '78. No Republican had ever tried to reach out to the Latino. And so they hired us, and then they fired us, and then they hired us again. The reason we had gotten into this campaign is because we had a little advertising agency in San Antonio. We had never done a statewide campaign. And they were going to spend $13 million in about 6 months. So that was a really big account for us, and we were so happy that we could finally break into the big time. And I got into that campaign really without knowing anything about politics, a little bit about advertising, and not all that much about advertising to Hispanics. But being a Latino myself and coming from a city that's 65% Latino, I had a pretty good feel of what we were all about. So we did this amazing campaign. He got 37% of the Latino vote, and overall he won by 0.1% of the total vote, and the difference was the Latino vote. In about 2 weeks, there was a big article in the front page of the marketing section of the Wall Street Journal, back in the days where they used to do those little drawings of pen and ink drawings of the faces. And I had a pen and ink drawing on my face on the front page of the Wall Street Journal Marketplace. And that changed my life totally. That one phone call by John Tower totally changed my life. Within 3 months, Coca-Cola had come to us, Coors Beer had come to us, and Bacardi rum had come to us, all with multi-million-dollar campaigns. I got a call, okay, we'd like you to work on Ronald Reagan's 1980 presidential campaign. And he wants to meet you. So I had the shortest meeting with Ronald Reagan. I don't think it lasted more than 3 minutes. And I went in the room and I said, Governor, I've been hired to help you get a large percentage of the Latino vote. And he said, well, that's going to be easy. I said, easy? Why do you say that? He says, because Latinos are conservative. Latinos' core values are conservative values. Working hard, wanting opportunity, having a love for the country, having a love for family, personal responsibility. These are Latino core values. These are Republican core values. All you have to do is tell the story about how I think the way you think. Ronald Reagan went on to win 37% of the Latino vote, and that was a record. I worked with Papa Bush, and he got a similar number. But then when I got to work with George W. Bush, he had a special interest in this. All of that goes to show that the way you get the Latino vote is to want to get it, to know that it's going to be important and that it may make the difference in a campaign. Good candidates have certain qualities. First of all, they know they're going to win. They're getting into it because they want to win, not because they want to run. And every once in a while, when somebody that's running for office asks me, "Can I talk to you about it?" I I want to be a candidate for such and such an office. I said, do you want to be a candidate for mayor, or do you want to be the mayor? Because if you want to be a candidate, I'm not interested. Secondly, must love to raise money, love it, and spend all the time needed in order to raise the money needed, and then be able to understand their constituency. Who is for me, and who might be for me, and then who isn't going to be for me. And you don't talk to the people that aren't going to be for you. You do talk to the people that you know are going to be with you, but mostly you talk to the people that could go either way. Get them to know you, get them to like you, get them to trust you. Then, when you've done that, then you can begin talking about the issues. This is why and in getting them to know you and like you, you can integrate some of the beliefs on the issues, but it's more important, in my opinion, to connect with values. Why is it that we think alike and we are alike? Why is it that I know you, I understand you, and that you feel that you know me and that you understand me? It's an emotional bond that's built, because people who are the swing vote are going to make that decision emotionally, not just on the issues. I like that person, therefore I'm going to vote that person. I trust that person enough to know that even though I may not agree on everything, he or she is a big enough of a leader that I can trust them to make the right decision when the decision time comes. It's still the candidate that decides we're going to be the party of inclusion. And that's what we as Republicans need to do. We need to understand that we must include those growing minorities, the Latino and the Asians, because the Asians are immigrants too. And we need to engage young people, and we need to engage more women. And if we concentrate on those 4 voter groups, the Latino, the Asian, the women, and the youth, we will win. And we need to include people in our party that may not agree with every single thing that we agree on, but we agree on the basics of freedom, of small government, of strong defense, and of opportunity. If we believe in those basic values, we can maybe disagree a little bit on the social issues, maybe a little bit on how immigration goes forth. But as long as we believe in our country and we believe in our basic values, we're going to do a really good job.
What ways does somebody who perhaps doesn't have a lot of Latinos in their social circle become or present themselves as a friend to the Latino voter?
You have to know your voter groups. You have to like them, because before they like you, you have to like them. And you just get into it and make it your business to make Latinos or Asians or African Americans your friends, because you need to understand them and you need to like them in order to get them to vote for you, and you need them. And if you're a good public servant and you're going to be the one that serves everyone, you need to be able to do this well, to understand every different voter group very well.
What about the language issue?
The language issue doesn't matter. If you speak Spanish the way George W. Bush speaks Spanish, that's great. If you speak Spanish the way Jeb Bush speaks Spanish, which is perfect Spanish, that's even better. If you don't speak Spanish like their father doesn't speak Spanish, that's okay too. All the important thing is, do I understand you? Do I care for you? And am I going to do right by you? Because most Latinos tend to identify as Democrats, but they will throw party loyalties aside if they like the person enough. They tend to vote for the person and not the party. I think it's very, very important that more Latinos run as Republicans. And be proud to run as Republicans, but don't put the Republican banner out. Just say my name is, and I'm running because I believe what you believe, and I'll care for you. And by the way, I'm a Republican, but I'm saying the right things, and people will listen if you say it enough times to the right people. And here's I think that the basic key is that you do have to raise enough money to be able to get your message across to the right people enough times.
At Al Dia, we interviewed a candidate, young Latino, who was challenging the district attorney at that point. And he, like you said, we asked him, look, why are you engaged in this hopeless race? You're not going to defeat him. And he was like, no, I have a chance. He really believed in it. And he was and he was a Republican, and he was very, he essentially presented exactly what your recipe for success is. And he got trounced. And I think, in his district is, clearly the people he was talking to, where he came from, were clearly a very democratic city. And so how are Democrats in our audience? How do they, approach Latinos? How do Republicans, who have the much harder road to hoe in a city that's democratically entrenched?
It's good to think you're going to win, because you have to go in it with that attitude, but you also need to know what the numbers are and what your real possibility of winning is. And if you know that you want to win, you think in your heart you can win, but the number says there's no way you can win, then you say, I'm going to be in it because I care about the long term. And it may not be this year, it may not be in 2 years, it may not be even in 4 or 6 years, but at some time I'm going to be a pioneer that will begin to get this business of openness started, so that we can succeed sometime in the future. Remember that it's always the candidates that make the big difference. The candidates are going to be the ones that get people excited enough so that people come to vote. In the first campaign, Obama was able to get a lot of young people. After 4 years, they weren't quite as excited. So the second time, the young people did not come out to support Obama the way they did the first time. They've got to have a reason to vote, the Latino does. And the Latino has, most campaigns make a huge mistake. They start doing their campaign sometimes a year beforehand, and then they put in a few Spanish ads the last 10 days. Yeah. That's wrong. What if you were to do your entire campaign just during the last 10 days? How much of the non-Latino vote could you possibly get? You can't have two different ways of approaching a campaign and expect to get a Latino vote with 10 days of messaging while you have had 90 days of messaging in the general market. We actually suppress the Latino vote by coming to them too late, and then by negative advertising where everybody seems like a crook. If you're a Republican, many say, well, if we do this, we may lose our core voter. You don't lose your core voter. They're going to come out and they're going to vote for you, because are they going to come out and vote for the other person? No. You have a bigger chance of winning a new vote by some of these issues that are sometimes not in the mainstream Republican theme of issues. And you got to take that chance sometimes.
It seems to me that the current reality in the political universe is polarization, and in fact, I think it appears to be almost impossible to be a moderate Republican, emphasizing those values type issues, and not get hit from the right. You mentioned four things that are incredibly important, or four constituencies that are important for Republicans to court: Latinos, Asians, women, and youth. And I can hardly think of a group of men in particular who have worked so hard to alienate Latinos around immigration, women around reproductive rights, for example, youth for student loan, student debt, and you also didn't mention African Americans at all. And it just seems to me that the political realities of this early part of this century don't speak to Republicans acting the way that you say that they do. And even if they tried, they're going to get killed from the right, which has been the case. Well, how do you deal with that?
That is a tough one because in order for any person to become the candidate, they need to get nominated first. And in the Republican Party, you get your most conservative groups, including the Tea Party, dominating that. So what any candidate has to do, it's also true on the Democrat side, that the people that go on the primaries tend to be the more liberal people. So the candidates on the Republican side have to have a very conservative message while they're trying to get nominated. The Democrats have to have a more liberal message while they're trying to get nominated. And then once you get nominated, both will tend to go quite a bit to the center, or at least that's the only way to do it.
We have to be honest about it. The language that has come from Republicans, particularly on immigration, but also in terms of, women, sexual assault, the rape stuff that has come out of Republican mouths, serves no Republican aspiring candidate to attract those audiences.
It hurts. It hurts a lot.
How do you I mean, I don't understand how you get, what language do you use? And how do you recover from your party's language?
Well, it's interesting because the people will tend to look at that individual candidate and not what somebody in the party said that was offensive.
Well, no Latinos voting for Steve King.
Yeah.
No Latinos voting for Steve King. They might vote for Marcos Rubio because he speaks such beautiful Spanish. But, I mean, honestly, once you've said that, there's no going back. And it means that the next Republican who comes up in your district has to deal with what you've said, right?
You do to a certain extent, but Latinos are smart enough to know the difference between one candidate and the other. Sure, it's harder, a lot harder, because you have to fix something before you can go forward, and that shouldn't have to be, but it's not impossible. It can be done.